Hi, I'm Jill Vitale-Awesome with the Eden Alternative. Thanks for joining us today. We are really excited to have two of our very good friends and two of my heroes on our show today. We have Sue Ellen Beatty and Eric Anderson from Sherbrooke Community Center in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. And for anyone who's been through Certified Eden Associate training, you have likely learned about Sherbrooke Community Center. We show their video during Certified Eden Associate training. Sherbrooke was the very first milestone for Eden Registry member. And for those of you who aren't familiar with that, the Eden Registry is a group of organizations that are committed to driving real, deep, and sustainable change. And we go through milestones. So when an organization starts out, they start at milestone 1. And milestone 4 is our highest level. And Sherbrooke achieved that. I don't even know how. When we very first added that milestone, you were the first ones to reach that. And we, some of you who are watching may have had the chance, like I did, last June to visit Sherbrooke for their Sherbrooke Palooza leadership deep dive. And I can tell you that all of the things that I heard about Sherbrooke all these years about the amazing culture, the amazing leadership, is all true. And it's more than I ever expected. So we're here today to talk with Eric and Sue Ellen about what's happening at the community in light of COVID-19. And how they're maneuvering through it and how their culture is helping them get through this really challenging time. So welcome, Eric and Sue Ellen. We're thrilled to have you. Could you tell everyone a little bit about you, Sue Ellen? Do you want to start?
Sure. My name's Sue Ellen Beatty, and I'm the CEO at Sherbrooke, and I would say that stands for Chief Empowerment Officer. And I am a nurse by education, but just this month I've been the CEO here for 25 years, and somebody reminded us of that last week, but I've actually been at Sherbrooke 33 years, so I first came as the Director of Nursing. I'm also with Cheryl George, the Regional Coordinator for Western Canada for the Eden Alternative, and am pretty passionate about the philosophy. We adopted it in 1998. Was when we actually got interested, and I think we registered in 1999. So we've been at this for a while, and it's been a great journey.
Thanks, Sue Ellen. Eric?
Yes, my name is Eric Anderson. I'm the communications leader here at Sherbrooke Community Center. I've been here for about 3.5 years now, and Sue Ellen was kind enough to hire me 3.5 years ago, and it's been an amazing experience. This is a really wonderful place to work and to grow as a person, and yeah, learned a lot here so far, and learning lots each and every day. Before that, I worked as a journalist with the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation, and before that, lasted 2 years as a high school teacher, and realized that just wasn't for me. So yeah, luckily to head down this path, and that ended up here at Sherbrooke. And so yeah, very happy to join you here today, Jill, on your very popular web show. So thank you.
Well, and so for those of you who are watching, I would really encourage you to follow Sherbrooke Community Center on Facebook. Really, you all are role models for having social media engagement. And Eric, you have a show you do. Is it weekly, the Dawn Show?
Yeah. So we do a weekly show with one of our residents named Donovan called The Dawn Show. And Dawn is the host, and I'm the Ed McMahon of the show. And yeah, Donovan talks whatever is on his mind. Donovan shares, so it could be anything from Star Wars to other movies, to music, pop culture, to giving shout outs to people. It's a lot of fun to do, and he has become quite the local celebrity. So it's really cool, and I get to ride his coattails once every week.
Yeah, so again, I encourage everybody to follow Sherbrooke on Facebook. There's a lot of great things happening there. So and for everybody who's joining live, I encourage you to pop in with comments. Let us know where you're watching from. I see Evie is here, Evie Kugelman. But pop in, ask questions. Chris Angevine's here, Meredith Martin. I've always looked at Sue Ellen as she really is a role model for leadership. So this is a great opportunity to ask questions and get her insights, as well as Eric's. And we're going to talk about the great work Eric and the team there have done with communication during this crisis that we are all living through right now. It's interesting. Sue Ellen and Eric, talk to us a little bit about, you made some critical decisions about what you were going to do at Sherbrooke before the government even put out new guidelines and new laws about how communities like yours should handle things. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Sure. I'd actually been on a lovely vacation in Mexico and arrived home on March the 5th. And of course, what I knew about COVID was really from the news. And I think it was March 11th or something, about 6 days later when the World Health Organization declared a worldwide pandemic. And I think it was March 12th when there was one case of COVID-19 in our province where we live in Canada. And so on that Friday of that week, which I think was about 2 days later, we decided that we needed to start closing our tent because we all knew that our people were the vulnerable people, and that it was us standing between them and COVID-19. And so we got right to it. So we stopped the school, the iGen classroom on the Friday, and said we didn't think it was a good idea for the grade 6 students to be coming to Sherbrooke. Their classroom is actually right here. So that was a big move. And anyways, the next week, the school board decided that the school would shut down. We also stopped our community day program on the Friday and sent everybody home with letters and saying, we're closing. And then it was actually Kim Schmidt, who's our leader for resident care. She always follows Schlegel Villages. And she looked at the protocol there. And of course, Schlegel is a very progressive organization, and we love to learn from others. And so we kind of watched some of these places. And Ontario, being in Eastern Canada, was so much earlier into the game because things came up through New York into Quebec and then into Ontario. And the way the spring breaks were timed, COVID became very, there were lots of cases already in Ontario. So we were fortunate because we were a little bit later into the game. So it was actually it was a Saturday night, and you must think we have nothing to do on Saturday night, but we actually kind of shut the place down on Saturday night. And I think it was, we were all on the phone, and there was 4 of us, and we agreed that this was the right thing to do. And so 2 of our people, one of them was Eric, was over here at midnight on Saturday night doing whatever we could, because we decided we were going to start screening staff the very next day. And so we were really, really busy figuring out protocols, and we did a lot of work that very first week trying to figure out the screening and what made sense. And it's when I became really grateful for my background. I used to be a public health nurse, and I used to teach nursing, and so I knew a lot about infection control. And then having been at Sherbrooke for so many years, you'd have an outbreak of something, and so you would learn to manage it. So we applied all that knowledge, and we set up a process and began screening right away. So we were very, very early into the game.
Yes, you were ahead of it. And I should have had you talk a little bit about this. How many elders live at Sherbrooke, and how many people live there or work there?
Well, 263 elders live here. And then of course we have a second home, Central Haven, where 60 elders live. And then there are probably combined about 600 staff between the 2 homes. So there's a lot of people here. And when you look at the family members and 400 volunteers, and then the schools, and then the child daycare, our community gets pretty big pretty fast.
Yes.
So we pretty much shut it down to everybody.
And one of the things I think is really fascinating about this is when we had talked before, I had asked you, well, were people upset? And you said, of course, there are always some people, right? But, and I know you won't say this, Sue Ellen, so I will, but I think that the culture, and this is my guess, that the culture of trust, the deep foundational work that you have done at that community has probably helped to not have people, not have a revolt on your hands, right? People trust you, they trust the team, everybody's well known. Do you agree? Has that been a big help with how you're carrying things out?
I do think it has been a big help because we are such an open community. And so being such an open community, there's so many people who do know you. All the people in the school, all the parents of the school children, all the parents of the children in the daycare, and then all of our family members. And so we're such an open community, and this is a place family members want to be. So people, they come and they hang out here because it's a fun place to be. And it still is, even though, we're very different today than we were 2 months ago. But I remember that first Sunday working the front door and turning family members away. And that was really difficult because we had to really scramble to start communicating. And I think, Eric, you put something on Facebook right away.
We did that Saturday night. Deb Schick, who is one of our leaders as well, and does an amazing job at communicating, especially online as well. Deb and I came in and we did a couple of videos just to explain what was happening and why we were doing it. And then the following day, like Sue Ellen said, when she's at the front desk, we were in the business office, arranging emails and letters that we were sending out to families and to elders as well, just to let them know what was happening and why we were doing it. Because like Sue Ellen said, Sherbrooke is such a small town, and Jill, I know you experienced that last year at the Palooza. It is such a small town, and then all of a sudden when you close the town to visitors, it's jarring. It's quite shocking, and so we just had to clearly explain why we were doing it, and then be available to answer questions. But you're right, having that, through years and years of building that trust, the support was really it was reassuring, especially from a communication perspective, because you just don't know I didn't know what the feedback was going to be like. And so to have family members saying thank you for keeping my loved ones safe during this time, that was a boost of confidence that we were on the right path very early on.
Absolutely. There's a, I think we're seeing this right now, is that crisis shows you where your strengths are, and it also shows you where the cracks are. So the more, that's what we're hearing from you and all the other organizations that we work with, is those organizations that have those really strong foundations are faring better. It's still really hard, but you gain something by having people know you as a person and know Sue Ellen and the team, that they're making decisions for the right reasons, and that makes such a huge difference.
I think the other difference, Jill, too, was they were watching what was going on in nursing homes around the world. And of course, every family member just gets terrified, right? And so the minute that we took steps, family members were very happy that we were doing that. So again, that saying, timing is everything. It really was on our side for this.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And making the right decisions at the right time, which really hard right now because you don't have all the answers right now, and you have to make the best decisions you can. So what's life like at Sherbrooke right now? And I want to kind of paint a picture for people of what Sherbrooke was like when I visited a year ago in June. And I mean, I also want to point out, for those of you who don't know, you support elders who need nursing home level of care, right? Is that a good way to describe it? And you walk into Sherbrooke. Well, first of all, we were greeted by the iGen students. So for those of you who don't know, the iGen program is students 6th grade, right? Go to school at Sherbrooke for the whole school year, which is unbelievable. So there's students there, and there's life. Like everywhere you go, there are people, and people are hanging out and talking, and it feels like this really vibrant town. And then there are small neighborhoods where people live. But talk a little bit about and you can do much better describing the normal before and what it is now, but what's different? What's the same? How have you all adapted to this new reality?
Eric, do you want to take a crack at that?
I'll take a crack, and then you can correct me. But yeah, so Sherbrooke is it's a really busy place here. There is so much activity. We sort of have like our villages, which is our Kinsman Village and our Veterans Village, have houses that 9 to 10 elders in each house, and then we have our more traditional side of our building, our Marla Wyant neighborhoods that have 40 residents, 40 elders in each neighborhood. So there's a lot of activity going on, and before all this happened, a lot of that activity would happen in sort of our main gathering places. So we have our Tawa Center, which is our main gathering place space here at Sherbrooke, and that's where you have everything from dances to our community day program does a lot of activities there. We've even held Canadian citizenship ceremonies there, church services. Obviously, we have a chapel as well. The adjunct class uses the space. We have a beautiful art studio, a greenhouse, swimming pool, therapies gym, computer lab. There are lots of big gathering places for elders to work with staff and to do all sorts of things that bring meaning and joy to people. That's the part that I've noticed the big difference is that we've had to close down those spaces. And so right now our elders are in their neighborhoods, but they can't go throughout the building. And so I know for me personally, that was hard for me for a little bit to get used to, because you're so used to, I like to get out of my office and sort of make the rounds and see what's going on throughout the building. And in these main spots where normally you would see elders, there wasn't a lot happening there. But what we've all discovered now is that there's a lot of life and a lot of joy and a lot of energy happening just in the specific neighborhoods. And Sue Ellen, maybe you want to pick it up from there in terms of what's happening within the neighborhoods.
Well, funny that you should say that, Eric, because I've only been in one neighborhood twice in the last 2 months. And so, I mean, for me and for our leadership team, the reason we're all here is because of the elders, and we don't get to see any, and it's awful. We had residents council last week virtually, and people were teary getting to see the elders that we get to see all the time. And this isn't about me, but my experience has just it's been difficult, and I know it's the same as everybody who doesn't work with hands-on care, is that we're kind of isolated from the residents a little bit because of the way we're set up. And so, you come to work and it's like a ghost town here. And like it really is, it's just so very strange. And because we have basically isolated people to their neighborhoods of 20 people or their house of 9 people, people stay in their neighborhoods and their houses. And so no one can come out. I mean, I think I've seen two residents who come out recently who, I had to help back to their neighborhood. But it's just really different. But there's some really great things that are happening too. Way back when we designed Sherbrooke and we designed the villages and the houses, one of the desires of my heart was that people would be big fish in small ponds. And so we tried to make things as small as we could for the elders, like limit the number of people that were part of their families and have constant care partners with our staff and the elders, so that they didn't have to, teach people all the time or navigate new things. And that's something that we do at the Eden Alternative, is we try to have this close and continuing contact. And so I always wanted it to go further than it was. But, people would come down to these big areas, and we had the physio gym and OT and the art studio. And then there were lots of people who didn't take advantage of those things. But what's happening now is that this whole place is decentralized to the neighborhoods. And we use a word called, it's cohorting of staff, which means staff work in the same place all the time. And actually, we've done that in our entire province, where you can only work at one home. because we've learned from other places that that's how COVID has been spread from one home to another, is when staff are able to work at more than one place. So now what we have is our physios and our OTs and our our recreation people always were, but everybody's in the neighborhoods because the elders aren't coming out. So our staff are all in there, and I'm seeing a lot of the things that were my dream 20 years ago actually happen. And we're hearing from residents, we get to communicate with the residents, but they're saying, this is really great. Like, we love having these people around. And so we've moved physio gym into the neighborhoods or equipment and things like that. So we're more decentralized than we ever were. And there's some really good things about that.
Well, and I think about, one of the things that you said years ago, is that you lay the path as you walk it at Sherbrooke, right? And that you've always had that. How would you describe that, your approach? Because it sounds like it's really serving you well right now.
Well, it's some people might call it a little bit flying by the seat of your pants, which I personally like to do. I'm a bit of a risk taker, and I surround myself by people who are procedure people, good planners. Because if I didn't have those people, I'd probably get us into trouble. So, kudos to those people. But at a time like this, you have to lay the path as you walk it, because every day there's a new thing. Every day we're responding to something new. And, back in the very beginning of this, it was the adrenaline was flowing all the time. Because all of a sudden you'd get an email from the Saskatchewan Health Authority saying, implement this tomorrow, basically. And so you'd scramble around trying to get things into place. And it was a little bit of fun at the beginning. Now it's not so much fun. And we were doing a lot of knee-jerk stuff, sort of, this happened, okay, let's go get it done. And it was kind of hard on our staff. They're really used to change. But it was sort of like you'd come to the front door every day, there'd be something different. And they'd say, really? And we'd say, yeah. And of course, it was a great time to greet staff and joke with them a little bit. But we realized that was really stressful for people. And so now we are doing a little bit more of a soft launch on some of the things that we get direction to do. And we make sure that we've thought them out a little bit more carefully. But we did pretty great right from the beginning. We've got some people, Deb Schick and Bev Leonard, who are really good at infection control. And right from the get-go, we were able to put together a screening system that ended up getting used all over our province. And so it's basically the work that got done at Sherbrooke that was laid the foundation for what we're doing all over. And our province is doing really, really well. So yeah, it's sort of like, it's a little bit nerve-wracking because we seem to implement or get changes at Friday at 6 o'clock or Saturday night at 7 or just whatever, because there are no office hours to this anymore, right? I mean, COVID is COVID. And so people are always on the alert, and because of that, people are stressed, right?
Oh, yeah.
Because it's this free-floating kind of anxiety, this social angst that is around. And so one of the things that you have to do as a leader is be calm. Like, be calm and be open and listen. And, we've always admitted, maybe not always, but mostly admitted when we were wrong, when we knew. And staff are used to that. And so staff will help us and say, well, why are you doing this? Or did you consider this? And so they help us put better things into place. So it really is a team effort with everybody around here kind of contributing. But yeah, we are clearly laying the path as we walk it. And you know what the whole world is?
Yes.
Because we are just learning about this virus and what the characteristics are. And there's so many different theories and so few things that are proven at this point that we can rely on. So yeah.
Go ahead, Eric.
Just to build off of Sue Ellen's staying calm theme, I know for myself personally, there was no class at journalism school in regards to communications during a global pandemic. So being surrounded by a leadership team that is calm and that takes a deep breath and thinks through, a challenge that is presented to them, it's nice to be surrounded by that. And as someone like this, so much of this is new to me, and just to have, a calming presence like Sue Ellen, like a Kim Schmidt, really makes a difference. And then just the team approach too, whether it is a letter to families or something like that, it's not just me writing it and sending it out. It's me writing a first draft, and Sue Ellen and Kim going through it and making sure that they've added their what they wanted to add and all that kind of stuff. But just working as a team is it's made a huge difference. I think I just wanted to add that part. Yeah.
I think the team's pretty humble too. Like if I write something and Eric corrects it, I'm happy for it. Or if he writes something and I correct it, he's happy for it. So
very happy.
Yeah, we've worked that way for a long time. And so we always think that everybody's business is everybody's business, right? There's sort of no turf protection. And so that works really good at a time like this.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, absolutely. And there is a question here. Michelle Daniel. Hi, Michelle. Michelle asked, are you journaling your stories to make a new Sherbrooke video? And if I could point out that Eric did a podcast, and we'll put the link, and I'll let you talk about it, but I want to see how amazing it was. So Eric has a podcast that he does, and he did an episode focused on, when I listened to it, I was like, wow, this is almost like a historical documentation of what life is like at the community right now. So we can put that in the comments so people can go listen to that. But do you want to talk a little bit more about your podcast that you did? Any other ways that you'll be journaling or sharing this?
I'd love to. Yeah. So I have a podcast that I do in my spare time called YXE Underground, and YXE is the airport code for Saskatoon, and it features interviews with people that are doing great things in Saskatoon but are kind of flying under the radar. When all this happened in March, I was supposed to interview a local teacher, and then everything happened, and so that interview got pushed to the side. And then it was 24/7 in terms of what was happening here at Sherbrooke. And then I thought, what am I going to do for an April episode? Who am I going to find that is doing something great? And then I just realized, well, I'm surrounded by about 500 people that are doing great things here at Sherbrooke. And so I decided to sort of illustrate how life has changed here at Sherbrooke, and what are the challenges, but then how people are rising to meet those challenges. So there was a little bit of documenting this for history as well in the back of my mind. So tried to speak with as many people as possible, whether it was Deb Schick from our leadership team, or Alana Moore, our artists in residence. I could think of staff members from our laundry team, our food services, our nursing, care staff, and then 4 elders at the end of the podcast as well. And it was really great to hear their perspectives too, because I think what you hear in those elders, so I did the interviews the first week of April, and what you hear is a very honest opinion about how they were doing. And for some elders, they were doing all right. And for some, this was a really hard and challenging thing that they were going through. But I remember something that Sue Ellen said to a journalist last year, when she said that what we're doing here at Sherbrooke is real life, and real life is hard. And I wanted to keep those interviews by those elders in there, because what we're going through is really hard, and it's not just us at Sherbrooke, it's care homes across North America and the world. And so I thought it would be doing a disservice to not include those interviews. So it turned out really nice, and the feedback was really positive, and it's had lots of listens, which was really great, because we just wanted to, in kind of a different way, tell the story of what was happening here at Sherbrooke. So to answer the question, we're sort of doing it. We did it in the podcast form, and then we have a biannual newsletter, a sort of magazine that's going to come out next month. So we'll collect some stories for that as well. And then when I scroll through our Facebook feed, I sort of see like a daily recap in terms of what's been happening here at Sherbrooke. So yeah, I think journaling and just chronicling how what life is like right now, I think is very worthwhile. And I hope that in a year's time, my Facebook memory will just be something like, oh, that's right, we went through that, but now things are better. So that's what I'm hoping anyways.
I hope so too. And that what you mentioned something that I think I know really creates trust, and that's being real. And that was one of the things, like you mentioned, when you interviewed the elders. So Michelle said, "Are you writing a book?" So is that what you're saying? You're going to write a book? Yes, you should write a book. No, I actually wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy.
Yes, you would know all about that, Jill. Yeah.
But just being real. So I see, you know, sometimes we want to just put out the happy side of things. And I think we do that a lot in our field in general, and especially in a crisis. And people know, like, it just doesn't match with what you know inside. Like, everything isn't happy right now. And so to hear those elders, like Jody, who works with the iGen students, talking about how painful it is not to have the students there, and that she's talking with them on video chatting, and it's good, but it's still not the same. And I applaud you for being real, because that makes such a difference. And I've noticed that with all of your communications. I always watch what's going on when you put out your daily updates. And I'm always like, yes, no COVID-19 cases at Sherbrooke. And in the very beginning of this, Deb Schick, your what do you? She's not a director of nursing. What do you call her? What's her?
She's the leader for professional practice.
Okay, leader for professional practice. You know, she did a Facebook Live, post and talked about, this is what's going on, and it's hard right now. And here's what we know, and here's what we don't know. And you all have done such an amazing job with communication. Do you want to talk about what the strategy is? Maybe some other organizations could learn from that.
Oh, well, this was very much like Sue Ellen said, laying the path as we walk it. But one of the things I've learned from Sue Ellen and from working here at Sherbrooke is the importance of empathy. And so trying to place myself in the shoes, and ourselves in the shoes of family members. What would they like to know? What do they need to know? When I worked for CBC Radio, I worked on our morning show, and we would call it survival information. If there was a bad storm in the morning, what do you need to know to sort of get through the day? And so with our daily updates that we post on our Facebook page and on our website as well, we just sort of lay out, what is happening. So the first thing we state is that we currently have no cases of COVID-19, and that's been very nice to type out each and every day, and we hope it continues that way. And then we go through in terms of how families can get in touch with their loved ones, because obviously that communication, I could probably write a book about that, just in terms of the importance of loved ones being able to communicate with their elders here. So we reinforce those points, and then any new information for families. So for example, this past weekend, we found out again on a Friday afternoon that that families could in fact drop off certain supplies, dry paper goods, I think is what they called them, and this was in preparation for Mother's Day. So again, on a Friday afternoon.
And flowers, they were allowing flowers, right?
And flowers, yeah. And then making it clear that if you're a florist, the florist could come into the building, but if you're a loved one, you could drop the flowers off, but you can't come into the building. So again, trying to make the communication as clear and concise as possible. So we've been doing that each and every day, and I think it's been reassuring, not only for elders and for family members, but then we have a separate section for staff as well, because we need our staff to keep up to date in terms of education, donning and doffing of masks. We've done a lot of education on that, hand hygiene as well. Deb Schick's been instrumental, and Bev Leonard with that as well. But I'll give you one quick anecdote to show the importance of it. So we were doing daily updates, and then it was Easter weekend, and so we had a long weekend, and so I didn't work those days, and so there were no daily updates on the Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. And when I came to my office on Tuesday, I had many emails and many phone calls asking, is everything okay? I haven't seen a daily update. Is COVID in the building, what's happening. And it was a very good reminder of the fact that in a time like this, that constant flow of communication is really necessary. So Easter was a very good reminder to all of us that, you know, our families, even though they might be in touch in terms of like you know, Skyping or FaceTiming and through telephone, it's hard. It's hard for families to not have this sort of physical connection of coming here. So to keep those lines of communication open and consistent is really big. And then just being completely honest with them if we do screw up something, and there's been a couple of times where we've had to apologize in the daily update for not getting something right. And I think families appreciate that this is they're challenging times and we're doing the best that we can. But I think open and honest and consistent communication is really crucial.
Yes, you can't over communicate, especially right now, right? So there's a question from Beth Sanders. Beth Sanders from Life Bio. Thanks for being with us today. Do you ever have families that feel guilt and want to remove their loved one from the community, but the elder wants to stay in the community because it's their home?
We have had a couple of people who have gone home from Sherbrooke, and the deal is you have to go home for the duration of the pandemic. You can't come and go. But no, we haven't run into that situation per se. But I do think it's really, really, really hard for families right now. Like I say to the elders, you know, we're all in here, we have each other, and we see people every day. And I'm really grateful I get to come to work and I get to see people like Eric and my team every day. And there are so many family members shut away all by themselves, lonely, helpless, and bored, you know, in their condos, a spouse of somebody who might live here or something like that. And so, you know, I would say that many of our elders are more worried about their family members at home than they are feeling bad for themselves. So yeah, it's an interesting time.
Yeah, because even if the world shrunk a little bit at Sherbrooke, people are still in neighborhoods, and you're still amongst people. And so those living at home, wow, that makes a lot of sense. So I want to ask you, one of the interesting things, at least in parts of the US, and I think parts of Canada as well, is that there are a lot of painful stories about what's happening in nursing homes and other elder care communities. And one of the things that I've noticed about Sherbrooke is you have had an incredible amount of positive, supportive stories, including one, and we'll put the link in the comments, from the Star, which is the Toronto newspaper, right? And you all are on the west side of Canada, and Toronto's on the east side. But the title of this op-ed piece is "This is the model for long-term care we need and deserve," and it's about Sherbrooke Community Center and the Eden Alternative and what you all do. And so my hypothesis, and you all tell me if this is true, but Sherbrooke's always had a very strong connection with the outside community, right? The elders are out there, and you all are giving back to the community, and you're so well known. What impact do you think that has on the support you're getting from your community and your country, really?
You know, this is really an interesting time because people kind of want to point fingers. And they want to hold up some people as doing a great job and then be very critical of others not doing a great job. And, you know, I say to our team, but for the grace of God, go we, right? We don't have a case of COVID-19. We don't have experience with having a case, right? So people keep saying, you know, you guys are doing such a great job. And I, you know, I've said to a few people, we look good, right? But we haven't been tested. You know, we actually haven't been tested. So, you know, I do believe in the model, and I do believe in what we're doing. But I notice at a time like this, people want to point things out. And what I'm really happy about is that somebody's paying attention to long-term care, because we have been understaffed forever. There has been ageism for as long as I have been around. And all of a sudden now it's mattering to the community about the conditions in long-term care and about how staff are treated and the staffing levels and all those kinds of things. And so I am delighted to have us looked at and said, you know, this isn't right. And then for somebody to say, you know, here's a good way to go. But I was reading something that one of the other coordinators, regional coordinators, was writing about how people want to call us heroes. And you know what? We're not heroes. We are people who have been doing this day in and day out forever. Well, for my lifetime anyways, and that's been forever. So, you know, it's really an interesting time, but I'm happy to see the spotlight shone on us. And I really, really hope that we can manage COVID-19 if it comes knocking on our door, but I can't guarantee that. I would say to the staff, we're mitigating the risk, we're reducing the risk. We can't eliminate it, right?
That's a very good clarification to make.
Yeah,
absolutely. Eric, any thoughts from? Are you seeing how's the community responding? Like, are they reaching out and saying, "How can we help you all?" What are you?
Yeah. Yes. Our community is really reaching out. They want to know how we're doing, especially in those first few weeks. To go from everything being fine, and then, you know, on a Saturday night we you know, took all these steps, and then, you know, on the Monday, normally our volunteers who would come here, well, they can't come, and I've seen that a lot, Jill, with our volunteers, and so I'm sure you've seen that as well. Our volunteers are so used to coming here. It's part of their either daily or weekly routine, and they have these really close.
And you have 500 volunteers?
Well, 400 volunteers that right now on our roster.
Yeah. There's a lot, and so they miss us, and our residents and our elders they miss them as well. So there's been a lot of feedback, and there was a lot of especially in those first couple of weeks, how can we help you? We want to help in some way, and we had to politely say, like, we'll get back to you. We'll figure out a way. We just have a lot on our plate right now. But so we're working on that now, because I think it will be a while before volunteers can come back here. So we're working on some creative ways to connect our volunteers with our elders again. So but Sue Ellen brings up such a great point in terms of, you know, we've got this, not only our community supporting us, but there are a lot of eyes on long-term care right now. And I think if there is some good that can come from this, is that there are some meaningful changes that can happen. And from a communication perspective, when you have a leader, a CEO like Sue Ellen, who is so passionate and who is so articulate as well, from a communications perspective, I when the opportunity arises, I try and say to Sue Ellen, I think this interview might be good, because I think you could influence and I don't know. This is like, Sue Ellen, you're so good. I know you're just down the hall from me, but you're wonderful. And I think that that your knowledge can really help to influence others. So I do see this as an opportunity for change, and because so many people are paying attention now, and I hope it's not naive to think that, you know, in a year's time, you know, we just go back to what it was. I don't think it will be that way, because there is so much happening right now that change needs to happen. And so when you do have an editorial in the Toronto Star saying this is the model, it's very humbling to see. But like Sue Ellen said, it's not like we just started doing this last week. This has been for more than 20 years. So if now that people are paying attention, I think we have an opportunity, and we're trying to make the most of it while still keeping our elders safe. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, and the groundwork that you all have laid by having those great relationships in the past, you are so well known. It can really make an impact on the future of our field, which is amazing. So Laura Beck has a question. Do you have any words of wisdom? This is a great question. Any words of wisdom for other communities regarding holding each other up? Any examples or suggestions for supporting and acknowledging feelings and fears as they may arise for team members?
Oh, Laura Beck would ask a really good question. Absolutely. You know, we talk in our team and we do a check-in, like, how's everybody doing, right? And we do take care of each other. You know, Eric's had some illness with his dog, and somebody else had a issue with their horse, and then there are the issues with the kids, and you know, all those things, and us being lonely and not being able to see our families. And so we're trying to help each other. And we meet every morning at 9 a.m. Pretty much every day to check in with everybody, to see if people, like the managers, to see if we're all doing okay, and talking about, you know, going out there to, you know, to support our staff. And Robin Kitchen, who's our educator, she's put together a whole bunch of materials for staff for self-care, for coping. She has a drive on our website where staff can go in and find all of these tools. And then, of course, we do huddles, and then, of course, the daily updates, and leadership. All of us work at the door. And so we see staff coming and going. We thank them. We appreciate them. We ask them how their families are. We've done a lot of staff meetings, Eric, virtual staff meetings.
Yeah.
Some just to thank people, and, you know, just to answer questions. So, you know, it's like you said, Jill, you can't over communicate. And so we're trying to do a lot of that. But we've got a lot of really beautiful tools put together for people to help each other. So it's good.
And I'm glad Sue Ellen mentioned the part about Robin Kitchen creating a resource for staff, because what hit me in speaking with some staff when I was doing the podcast was that, you know, not only so staff are coming here and they love our elders so much, and they want everybody to be safe, but then when their shift is done, they go home and they might have 2 or 3 kids that are normally in school that are now trying to learn online now. Like there's pressures at home as well. And so we ask a lot of our staff, and our staff is incredible. So I think the taking those opportunities to check in with your staff to see how they're doing. And then I know from hearing from other staff, we've started doing online staff meetings where Sue Ellen will record a video in her office, and then we'll share it with staff. And that just for staff to be able to see Sue Ellen is really nice, because as she mentioned earlier, you know, she's not going out into the building as much, but for staff to see, okay, everyone's still thinking of us and wishing us well and thanking us. It seems like something small, but I think it really does go a long way.
Yeah. So I'm guessing, I just want to clarify, Sue Ellen, you're not out in the neighborhoods because you want just that cohort of people who are there. You don't want to be going from neighborhood to neighborhood and potentially bringing virus, right? That's the reason. And you're used to being out there face to face. So that's great that people can at least see you somehow. There is a question. Do you have any idea when we'll be able to come in and see our loved ones? This might be from one of the family members at Sherbrooke.
You know, we didn't get a chance to really talk about how difficult this is for family members. We have a process where, you know, if someone is palliative, that the family can come in for compassionate reasons and see them, and I'm really grateful for that. And it really is heartbreaking. So we sort of understand all of that. I don't have any idea when that will change. All of those changes come from the medical health officer, the chief medical health officer in our province, who, you know, makes an order about what we can do and what we can't do for the most part. So the visitor restrictions are the law actually right now. So here's what my hope is, and this is my prayer every day, is that some brilliant scientist will figure out a strategy for treating COVID-19 so that it isn't going to be the threat. And yes, maybe we don't get a vaccine, and maybe, you know, some of those things don't happen. But if we could actually treat the symptoms of this, that would be a really different thing. And then, of course, we would be able to visit. We would be able to be together. So that's my prayer.
Yeah, mine too. I'm with you on that prayer for sure, Sue Ellen. So I don't know if anyone else has any questions out there that they want to pop in. And in the meantime, Eric, Sue Ellen, what haven't I asked you? What else would you like to share with people? Anything people should know? Any advice that you have?
Ooh, Sue Ellen, what do you think?
I know I caught you off guard with this one.
No, but you ask very, very good questions.
Well, Eric said so many nice things about me too, so I'll have to give him a raise right after we're done here. But I am so glad to have Eric to help with communications, because I guess that would be my advice to people is communicate, and information helps people to feel at ease. But if you have this feeling, oh my goodness, my wife is in Sherbrooke, or my dad's in Sherbrooke, and I have no idea what's going on in there. So I think the more that we can use social media, like we've bought iPads and phones and had them donated, and we've deployed staff to the neighborhoods just for communication with loved ones. And I think that that's probably one of the best things that we've done. And Eric has played a really big role in all of that and helping us to communicate. We can't imagine what we would do without somebody helping us, because it is a full-time job, more than a full-time job.
The iPads have and iPhones, but especially the iPads have become really crucial here, Jill. And I know that's and I think it was on one of your shows last week where you were speaking with I think it was a gentleman who was talking about care homes in Louisiana and the importance of having the iPads there as well. But it's so very true. I got to sit in on a conversation between one of our elders, and she actually had her 3 daughters and her son. And we connected the iPad to one of our smart TVs, and so they were all sort of like it was a Zoom chat basically. But in speaking with one of the daughters, she said it's just so, even though my mom might not hear everything that I'm saying, it's important for me to see her face and to see her eyes. And when she said that, that's just like, talk about a simple pleasure that you have, just being able to see your mom's eyes when you're communicating and when you're having a conversation. And this is someone that would be a frequent visitor here at Sherbrooke, and now that's not happening. But having that technology has been really, really helpful. And it's been really empowering, I think, too, for a lot of our staff who maybe were a bit timid around technology, and we're 2 months into this now, and now they, I'm sure they could teach a course on how to set up a Skype account or a FaceTime account. So again, opportunities for our staff to learn new skills, and like Sue Ellen said, the more communication, the better. And it's been inspiring to see other care homes across North America doing this as well. So I'll never look at an iPad the same way again.
We've learned so much from other people.
That's it was Jack York from It's Never Too Late who was on the show. And in the US, for nursing homes, there's grant money available for nursing homes to purchase equipment. And I think Jack was talking about how people, or it might have been when we had Bob Kramer on the show, just talking about how, people will never be able to learn how to do this. We'll never have this happen. And poof, how quickly, that things have happened when we need to have it.
The teachable moment.
Yeah. So Alana is watching. Alana, from your art. What is her official title?
Artist in Residence.
Artist in Residence. I'm sorry. And Alana says she's honored to work at Sherbrooke during this time. I feel supported for these hard times. It's a beautiful thing to be able to make art with elders, but also be there as their friend and family while their loved ones can't visit. Thank you, Sue Ellen, Eric, Karen, for all you do. And there is another question. There's a couple more questions if you have another minute. Michelle Daniel, I find this is an amazing time for team members to be innovative and to solve problems with true empowerment. Even as advanced as you are on the Eden journey, are you witnessing a lot of innovation from elders in the team?
Absolutely. Necessity is the mother of invention. It really is true. And it was really funny when we've always had a bar cart that went around Sherbrooke and served drinks and stuff like that. And now we have a junk food cart because people used to come down to the store and do this. And now there's this junk food cart, and Residents Council says, we want that to continue. We want to keep doing that. And people are figuring out all kinds of different ways to do things than they did them before, because, we can only have 6 people together and we have to spread people out. And so how do you do all this fun stuff, right? So they're pretty creative.
I love the examples that our our occupational therapists and our physiotherapists have done, setting up basically home gyms in the neighborhoods. And it makes such sense because like I bought an elliptical about a month into this because I couldn't go out to the gym, and it's I'm not a good runner, and it's always too darn cold here to run anyways most of the time. So I bought an elliptical, and you're setting up a home gym, and that's what our staff have done in the neighborhoods. And so in one of our shower rooms has been converted into a physio gym with an exercise bike, and there's weights on the wall. And again, the necessity brings about this. And what's been really great too is, so you have our physiotherapists working with our elders in that space, but then the meaningful conversations that I've seen happening as they're getting ready to set up, and then especially after they leave as well, because the staff are still within the neighborhoods. It's not like before where an elder would leave their neighborhood, come down to the physio gym, do their exercise for a half hour, and then go on their way, usually back up to the neighborhood. They're right there, they're immersed in it. So I think in speaking with our physio staff and our OT staff, they're getting to know our elders even more because they're immersed in their neighborhoods. So I think that's another way you're seeing the innovation and meaningful relationships come from this.
And people get to learn from them, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that goes to a question, another really great question from Laura. Has there been anything you've heard shared by any of the elders about this unusual time that has touched others or offered a unique perspective?
Ooh.
Well, I am sort of amazed at the resiliency of our people. There has not been a lot of resistance to keeping people safe, mostly appreciation and understanding from families and those kinds of things. So that's been pretty amazing.
Mm-hmm. I also think too, when determination amongst our elders too, and Jill, you were mentioning earlier, Jody, who is one of our elders who reads every day to the iGen class. It was hard for her when there was no build up for her to say goodbye. Normally there's a graduation ceremony at the end of June here at Sherbrooke, and you get to say a proper goodbye. And in this case, it was Thursday the kids were here and Friday they weren't, and so that was hard on Jody, but it was also, she missed reading to them. And then that she was in constant contact with Carrie Albert and Callie Spafford, our two iGen teachers, and they could sense that Jody wanted to reconnect. And now every Monday at 1 o'clock, Jody reads to the students through a Zoom conversation. And I've been lucky enough to sit in on a couple. The first half hour of the class is basically Jody catching up with the students. And so the teacher part of me is thinking, oh my gosh, like, let's get on with this lesson plan. But it's, they're having such meaningful conversations. Like Jody asks them, how are you doing? And some of the kids are doing great. Some are bored. What have you been up to? And then the last half of the class is reading, but Jody looks forward to that so much. So I think that's, like Sue Ellen said, our elders have been really respectful and understand what's going on, but it's been great to see the determination to keep those meaningful relationships alive through this time. Yeah,
that's awesome. Thank you both so very much. We are at almost an hour. We really appreciate you being here with us today. Sue Ellen, Eric, please give our best to everyone at Sherbrooke, and our thanks and our gratitude for all the amazing things that you're doing there. For those of you who joined in, thank you for asking such great questions and putting in all the comments in the comment box. We couldn't get to all the comments. I hope that you will join us for our future shows. This Thursday, May 14th, we have Beth Sanders from Life Bio joining us to talk about the My Hello line, which is connecting people from different generations and fighting isolation during this time. So we're excited about that. That's at 3:30 Eastern Time, Thursday, May 14th. And then on May 18th, we have Sonia Barsness, who's a revisionary gerontologist. And we are going to be talking with Sonia about what can we be doing differently? What can we be learning? How can we look to the future? So again, Sue Ellen, Eric, thank you so much. Thanks to everyone for being with us today.
Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity, Jill, and congrats on the success of the show. It's awesome.
Yeah, good for you.